Hey there, friends, and welcome to episode 343 of Just the Zoo of Us. This week, I am joined by a writer and scientist and researcher for a look at the animal neighbors that have made themselves at home in our own backyards, Synanthropes. The word means a wild, undomesticated animal that lives closely alongside humans, whether that means scurrying through subway tunnels, or curling up in an old refrigerator at the bottom of the sea, or even quietly roosting right over your head. All of which we discuss in this episode. We also talk about a university campus turf war between dogs and baboons, the genetically enhanced super soldiers of New York City, villainous plants, the ancient prehistoric roots of our spiritual relationship with ravens, and other fascinating stories that are featured in Dan's book, Our Wild Familiars, which has just released this week. So, Just the Zoo of Us presents Synanthropes with Dan Werb. Hi there, everybody. This is Ellen Weatherford with Just the Zoo of Us, your favorite animal review podcast. I'm so excited this week to talk about a topic that is near and dear to my heart that we've kind of danced around a little bit in the past. So I am excited to really dive into this angle of it. And joining us to talk about our wild neighbors is writer Dan Werb. Say hi, Dan.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here to talk about creatures that we share our world with, sometimes a little closer than we might expect. Dan, what got you into wanting to write about animals and their relationship with people?
That's a good question. There's sort of the logistical path that I followed, and then there's the emotional path. I'm a science writer. I'm also an epidemiologist, so I'm somebody who studies, I guess you would call it the study of epidemics, but really for me, it's the study of how big events like an epidemic or a pandemic affect society.
I can't imagine that you would have had much to talk about recently.
Well, yeah, so my last book was a book about COVID-19, the pandemic, and one of the things that I delved into was sort of trying to trace the origins of coronaviruses. So SARS-2, which is the virus that caused COVID-19, but the other ones also. And what a lot of scientists told me when I was writing that book is that it's the intersection of wild animals with human populations that is increasing our risk of these spillover events. And I came across this term when I was doing my research, and the term is synanthrope. I'm a writer. I get excited about words.
You're like, that's a cool word.
Exactly. That's a cool word.
It sounds cool. Like, it sounds very like sci-fi almost.
Yeah. And so I was like, wow, that's a neat word. And I've actually never heard that word. So, you know, when I'm writing books, I'm always thinking about what the next book is going to be or other projects that, you know, might interest me. And so I just sort of like filed that away for a while. And when it came time to start exploring what I wanted to write about next, I looked at my notes and, you know, over the years, you just put together ideas. And this word synanthrope was there. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's really cool.
It's like a beat that keeps showing up. You're like, there's something
exactly.
there.
Exactly. That was the practical path that led me to writing about synanthropes, which really is the definition for wild animals that have ended up finding niches in human communities. The emotional path was, since 2007, most humans live in urban areas. That was the year when things tipped over for our species, from mostly rural to mostly urban. And living in a city or a town, you know, you can start getting lonely, you can feel disconnected from nature, you can feel isolated. And then if you add the pandemic to that, you know, I think we've seen these kind of ripple effects of loneliness and isolation. My last book I wrote during the pandemic from home, basically in 2-hour increments, while my wife and I had a 18-month-old. It was gnarly.
Dude, that was such a rough time to have a baby.
Yeah.
My younger one was born in November of 2020. That was a rough time to have a baby.
It was tough. It was tough. So for this book, I made a kind of a promise to myself that whatever the next book was going to be, it was going to take me out into the world. And it was going to be about connection in a way. And these two things just braided together so nicely, right? Is this idea about what is a synanthrope? Where are they? Or who are they? Or what are they? And how are they finding a way to live among our species in the crazy environments that we have created? And not only that they've found a way to live, but in some cases they've really thrived. And the cool thing about that for me is writing this book, and I think reading this book also, you understand that we're not actually isolated. Like, our species is not isolated at all. We're part of an ecosystem. It's an urban ecosystem. That doesn't make it any less ruled by the laws of ecology and the environment. And if you're part of an ecosystem, you're connected to the animals and other organisms around you. And it doesn't take much to shift your thinking and your emotional patterns to start to feel really connected and part of this complex whole. The journey for me has been starting with a really cool word and then finding, honestly, a whole new way to understand how connected I am to the world around me.
How cosmically fair that a very, very cool sounding word, like the coolness of the word corresponded to like
Yes.
the coolness of the concept. Doesn't always work out that way.
No, definitely not. So, I mean, it was a really fun book to write. And if people are wondering, okay, so you're an epidemiologist and you wrote this book, is it all about viruses and pandemics and things like that? It's not. I couldn't help but have one section about that because I think it is important.
Naturally.
But this book is about trying to find wonder. And that was really the motivator for me. And readers can be the judge, but there are a lot of crazy things that I talk about in this book that are pretty mind-blowing.
Were you an animal and nature kid, or did you have to kind of arrive there through your journey in like epidemiology and other sciences?
So I grew up in Vancouver, Canada, which is a famously nature-y city. So I have memories of going into a forest in Vancouver proper and catching tadpoles with my parents, like very pastoral and idyllic. So I think it's like deep in me, right?
You have to lay the groundwork, I think.
Yeah, but I've lived in a city, like in a big city and a bunch of big cities that don't have that level of kind of obvious natural spaces in them for pretty much my entire adult life. So I think like a lot of people, I think we're all drawn to want to be in nature. A lot of people feel this kind of nostalgia around lost natural spaces. And we hear a lot about climate change and habitat destruction and things like that. So, yeah, I think I went into this book with this idea of, I'm gonna reconnect the feelings of my youth by finding animals. But I have to say, that's not how it went down. Because what I learned from some really interesting ecologists, especially younger ecologists who are profiled in the book, a lot of people were like, look, you can't think about the world with nostalgia. You can't think about the natural world with nostalgia because that's kind of a dead end. If you're an ecologist, if you really want to understand what's happening, you have to look at the world as it is now. And if you're always looking backwards, you're never going to be able to be attuned to wonder. You're never going to be attuned to the amazing things that are happening right now and, thinking about the resilience of ecosystems and the ways that life can spring up in unexpected places in unexpected ways, because you're just going to be looking back and thinking, well, this isn't a forest, this isn't a pristine environment. And so my thinking really shifted.
Oh, interesting.
And I was sort of disabused of this idea that nature is in natural spaces and natural spaces are not where humans are. And cities are, the term that was used for cities in biology and in ecology for decades was biological desert. You don't have to be a scientist to understand what that means, right? Like, they're places where scientists assumed life just didn't happen. But about 20, 30 years ago, starting in the late 80s, early 90s, there was this real movement towards urban ecology. So shifting from kind of trying to understand how natural ecosystems work in pristine environments, out in the African savanna or, the Amazon rainforest or places like that, and really starting to shift towards like, okay, are there ecosystems in cities? And of course, it turns out, yes, there are ecosystems in cities. They're crazy and bizarre, and, humans are at the center of them in a lot of ways because we direct so much of how urban environments are set up in cities and towns. But we're not alone.
It's also just like a huge dump of resources too, right? It's like a huge pile of food and shelter.
Yeah.
Like, obviously,
exactly,
wildlife is going to take advantage of those resources. It might not be the type of like wildlife that you're really looking for at first, but there's going to be a wealth of rodents and bugs and weird plants that show up where you don't think they're going to show up. And like, obviously, it's a gold mine of resources. Obviously, things are going to live there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's pretty clear that from the beginning of human society, going deep into prehistory, even 30,000 years ago, a real goal of human environment building has been keeping animals out. We can't do that.
No.
Like, we've absolutely failed, and cities have absolutely failed. And I think now that's like the best part of a city is how badly we failed at keeping other animals and other organisms out. And that's just led to really fascinating situations.
And often, like, our attempts at keeping animals out, I'm thinking of like, if every time you see a spider in your house, you squish it. If you're trying to like preemptively remove all of the animals, what you're essentially doing is just inviting way more animals in because you're like getting rid of the things that would have controlled them. So like, it even just comes back to like this feedback loop of more and more and more.
I'll give you one example from the book, which is really bizarre. So for part of this book, I went to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is almost all desert, but in the west of the country, there's this massive mountain range. And the massive mountain range is the home range of hamadryas baboons, which are these giant monkeys. They're the only baboon species. There's 6 baboon species. 5 of them only live in Africa. Hamadryas baboons live in Africa, but they also migrated into Saudi Arabia using a land bridge that actually is the same land bridge that humans used when they exited Africa 100,000 or so years ago. So I get to this town in the middle of the mountains, and it's called Al-Baha. And Al-Baha is absolutely overrun by baboons.
That's Baboon City.
That's
the mayor.
Yeah, exactly. When I was there, I regularly saw literally dozens of baboons just rolling across the town.
Wow.
And these are big. I find them a little scary.
These are the ones with the big hair, right?
They have big hair. They have big red bums. They have big teeth. They attack people. They're like pretty aggressive. And they encountered in the city not only humans, but also feral dogs. So stray dogs are everywhere. And these are like really big dogs. They kind of look like the size of a golden retriever. And so I was talking to a veterinarian scientist out there who works at the local university. And he said that on the local university campus, they had this huge problem with feral dogs. Feral dogs were running around. They were knocking over garbage cans, eating garbage, eating food, getting really kind of aggressive. And it was a real blight. And so the university, which has a focus on raising animals and agriculture and things like that, was like, look, we can't have our campus for a school that is focused on kind of managing animals be overrun by animals, because that's not a good look. So
they can't be running the hospital. Exactly. So they had this big plan to remove the feral dogs. And it was this wild success. Like basically every time they found a dog on campus, they would they would sedate it, move it, probably sometimes euthanize it, scare them away. And then eventually the dogs stopped coming. Success. Then a few short weeks after the dogs were gone, hordes of baboons started moving into the campus. They're like, oh, thank you for clearing those dogs out.
Exactly. While the dogs were a nuisance, these baboons were a threat. There's some incredible footage, I mean, pretty scary footage of students from the university being attacked by hordes of baboons that climb over the walls and try to get at their bags and, garbage and anything they can get to eat. And in retrospect, what they realized was, as you said, the dogs were sentinels against baboon advancements into the university. And by removing the dogs, they actually made the situation way, way worse.
It's like in a video game when you take out all the low-level enemies. There's like a wave of like level 1 like zombies and stuff, and you take them out. And then there's like a second wave of way stronger ones that have like way worse powers and stuff. So like there's just like the second phase. Like, oh no, can we go back to the zombies?
Exactly.
Bring the dogs back.
Yeah.
They were probably cuter.
I mean, I can confirm they were cuter for sure, having seen both. So, I mean, you never can tell. On the flip side, what I find really fascinating is recently in a lot of cities across North America and Europe, there has been increased raptors, like red-tailed hawks, peregrine falcons, big birds that hunt. And they've started moving into cities. And the reason is basically because of all the pigeons there and all the small rodents. But these are such beautiful birds. And they've realized that essentially what happens is, especially with pigeons, is that pigeons in cities have to effectively turn off their predator response.
Oh.
They move into cities, and if pigeons reacted to humans as if humans were about to eat them every single time they walked by them, they would be so tired that they would never survive.
Yeah, can confirm pigeons do not respond to me that way.
No, absolutely not.
You can basically walk right up to them.
Exactly. And that's because they have learned, even if they haven't realized that they've learned this, that humans are not really a danger to them. What they've also learned, and this is why pigeons are always underfoot, is that the presence of humans acts as a shield against other predators. So like pigeons don't know that they know this, but they know, the species understands that if they're really close to humans, like a coyote's not going to run out and eat them.
True.
Or a hawk isn't going to swoop down and grab it by its claws. And so like there's this fascinating situation, right, where pigeons have become so ubiquitous basically everywhere across cities because they can use humans as human shields against other predators. But as so many of them have proliferated across cities, that's attracted hawks who are like, oh my God.
You made this for me?
Yeah, like these birds don't even react. Like these are such easy pickings for new predators. And what I love about that is just like, it's such a great example of how cities create ecosystems. Because now we're not talking about just pigeons and humans. We're talking about humans, pigeons, red-tailed hawks, maybe rodents, coyotes, or other predators. And so you can see very quickly how the complexity starts building.
It also reminds me of like the sort of history of pigeons too, how like we kind of brought them with us. Like we like put them in our little backpack and we're like, all right, you're coming with me. And then once we didn't need them anymore, we're like, oh, good luck out there. Bye. Have fun in the wild, pigeons. And the pigeons were like, I don't have anywhere else to go. I don't live here. Like, I don't know what to do. I guess I'll stay in this city with you guys if that's cool. So it kind of makes sense that pigeons would have to be like, well, you guys brought me here. You're going to keep me safe from the hawks, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like still having to kind of huddle under us and be like, I wasn't made for this. I wasn't made to live here.
Well, and I mean, they're not made to live anywhere else. Like these are synanthropes of the highest order. They are exclusively urban animals.
Yeah, like obligate synanthropes at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Unlike red-tailed hawks, which are casual synanthropes. They can move in or out of a city depending on what's more beneficial to them. So yeah, like super, super fascinating.
It also reminds me a lot of the domestication of cats. How like cats were like, oh, you guys are storing all this grain and you sure do have a whole lot of rodents and small birds around. So I'm just going to kind of lurk around and like take care of some of those for you. Like, I wonder if you were to look ahead into the future, like 5,000 years or something like that, if we would have some sort of relationship with raptors and birds of prey, similar to what we have with cats now. Like, just by spending more and more time around us in our cities and stuff, we just kind of like enter this peaceful agreement of like, we're cool with each other.
I mean, in a lot of ways, we have with a number of different animals. Like everything in biology, there's no real... You're not like, that's the moment where it happened. But there have been people or scientists who have predicted that raccoons, for example, are becoming domesticated because so I'm in Toronto today. There are anywhere between 100,000 and 640,000 raccoons in the city. And they're everywhere. And they're so cute.
Big fan. Big fan.
They're such menaces.
If you're going to have like an urban nuisance wildlife, this has got to be one of the cutest ones.
No, they're so awesome. I really love them. And they're so smart. Anyway, I could talk about raccoons all day. They're from the carnivora order. So these are meat-eating mammals. Their closest relatives are dogs, bears, weasels, things like that. Their far more distant relatives are primates like our species or other monkeys. And yet they have this very primate-like ability to change the paradigms of their thinking to meet different environments. So there are all these studies that have been done that have shown that raccoons, unlike, say, skunks or coyotes, they can learn something. And then when having learned that thing is no longer useful for them, they can unlearn it.
Done with that. I need to clear up space.
So they have this like cognitive ability to constantly change their thinking around different environments.
God, I wish I could do that. I got many song lyrics and like phone numbers that don't exist anymore. I got so many of those kicking around up here. I wish I could just like go through and just do like a file purge.
Ellen, I don't know you that well, but I can almost certainly confirm that you're better at this than raccoon. They may be good, but I'm pretty sure you're better. So, I mean, when you think about that ability to kind of quickly realize, this thing that I've been doing to get food or this way that I've been trying to protect myself isn't working anymore. You overlay that on a city, you think about just every tiny micro habitat or micro environment in a city. Like the way that I think about it is like, okay, how is a raccoon going to learn how to navigate like a Walmart parking lot or an alley behind like a greasy diner or the roof of an apartment building or, a culvert under a highway? All of these are totally different environments. And every single one requires a different way of navigating that landscape. And for us, it's second nature, right? Like we see something new, we kind of figure out how to move through it. But for members of that carnivora order, they generally can't do it, except for raccoons. They're just uncommonly good at thinking like humans. And so that's one of the reasons that they've been so crazy effective at finding niches in urban areas.
Another aspect of the urban ecosystem that makes it so different from a lot of other ecosystems is like how rapidly it can drastically change. In a period of a day or two, you could have an entire building disappear, or you could have over a few months. Now, all of a sudden, a street is like widened. Now there's construction equipment there. Now there's, a bunch of lights in one place that weren't there before. So like you can have the entire map of the area completely change in a very, very short amount of time. So any animal that is going to live there has to be ready for things to be completely different on any given day. Or you could even have something like, okay, maybe the people that lived in this building used to be really chill with you and would maybe give you some of their scraps, out of the trash or something. And now people move in who are going to shoot you on sight. And you have to be able to, like, on a dime, be able to be like, okay, this is no longer a safe place. I can't go here anymore. I feel like it demands a high level of reactivity.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's emerged this class of scientists that are behavioral evolutionary biologists. And they all pretty much focus on cities. So they're exactly what you're saying, Alan, is cities demand so much adaptation at such a high speed that that is where you can see evolution in action at speeds that we've never been able to see elsewhere. Part of this is the cognition thing that I was telling you about with raccoons, where it's like we can see intelligence, if not emerging, adapting, or being stretched to its limit in cities at a speed that we wouldn't ever be able to see in rural areas. Similarly, there are just all these ways that cities have been promoting evolution, particularly around behaviors, but also down to the level of genetic mutations. And one of the things that I talk about in the book pretty early on is the insane amount of adaptation and genetic evolution that has happened among rats in New York City.
Oh, yeah.
So over the past like 50, 60 years, these creatures have transformed themselves.
We're making super soldiers.
We absolutely are. I mean,
we're making Captain America rats.
It's bonkers. It's bonkers. Like, so in the 70s, the New York City government, the Department of Health and Sanitation tried to kill rats by using a rodenticide that was an anticoagulant. So basically stop blood from being able to coagulate, and rats would just bleed to death from the inside. Within like 5 years, they became immune to it.
That's crazy.
Genetic mutations that allowed them to very quickly adapt. Then there was this second generation of rodenticides, anticoagulant rodenticides. They adapted to that also. There's all these heavy metals that are leaching out of the Hudson River that runs through New York that basically would kill any other creature. They just became immune to it. Like, it's crazy. And then their whole bodies have changed. So for like 50 million years, rats have gotten longer teeth to allow them to eat like meat and, harder, tougher foods as they adapted from their original home range in China. And then in like the past 100 years in New York City, rats have basically stopped the 50 million years of evolution towards sharper teeth and gone in reverse.
Oh, run it back.
They have been developing flatter and flatter teeth. Why? So that they can eat soft foods.
It's for pizza.
It's literally for pizza.
They have adapted to pizza, an obligatory pizzavore.
Yeah, and just in, the past 150 years, it's remarkable what they've been able to do. So you think about, New York City, one of the most urban places in the world. Humans are everywhere, but also it's this like evolutionary hotbed where nature is running at turbo speed, forced by the pressures of the urban environment to create something new. I mean, it's just crazy.
Hi there. We're going to take a quick break to hear from our friends on the Maximum Fun Network. When we get back, we're going to talk octopuses, ravens, mountain lions, bats, and so much more. So stick around.
All right, we're over 70 episodes into our show, Let's Learn Everything. So let's do a quick progress check. Have we learnt about quantum physics?
Yes, episode 59.
We haven't learned about the history of gossip yet, have we?
Yes, we have. Same episode, actually.
Have we talked to Tom Scott about his love of roller coasters?
Episode 64.
So how close are we to learning everything?
Bad news. We still haven't learned everything yet.
We're ruined!
No, it's good news as well. There is still a lot to learn.
Woo!
I'm Dr. Ella Hubber.
I'm regular Tom Lum.
I'm Caroline Roper, and on Let's Learn Everything, we learn about science and a bit of everything else too.
And although we haven't learned everything yet, I've got a pretty good feeling about this next episode.
Join us every other Thursday on Maximum Fun.
If you want to know what's going on in the world of movies, you should be listening to Maximum Film so we can tell you all about it.
Okay, but what if you already know what's going on in the world of movies? What if you're kind of obsessed with movies, like maybe you have a problem?
Well, then you should definitely be listening to Maximum Film, because we too have that problem, and it's important you know you're not alone.
We're talking indies you'll want to seek out.
Blockbusters and blockbusting wannabes.
Classics we can't get enough of.
I'm comedian and writer Kevin Avery.
I'm film critic Alonzo Duralde.
I'm festival programmer and producer Drea Clark.
Together, we're Maximum Film. Smart about movies in Hollywood, so you don't have to be.
But if you already are, that's also great. And hey, we see you.
New episodes every week on MaximumFun.org.
There is a chapter of the book that covers Seattle and the waters around Seattle. So there's about 16 Superfund sites that have been there. So these are places where there's so much toxic pollution that the government has basically stepped in and said, okay, we got to close this off. We got to clean this up. Millions and millions of dollars are put towards cleanup. There's 16 of these sites in and around Seattle, including nuclear waste dumps, Lockheed Martin munitions factories where there's just like arsenic and other heavy metals that are leaching directly into the ocean. And yet, Seattle has actually become a site where giant Pacific octopus have become urban creatures.
That's my boy. That's my neighbor. That's my friend.
Yeah, it is your neighbor. And not only is it your neighbor prefers living in the most polluted part of the ocean rather than the less polluted parts of the ocean further away from Seattle. And so for part of the book, I connected with someone from Seattle called Eliza Heery, who is a marine ecologist. And a lot of her research has been focused on trying to map the underwater ecosystems in and around Seattle. And what she discovered is, first of all, it's like as close to an apocalypse as you can get. Like there's literally like nuclear waste that, has leached into the ocean. And so she's seen so much destruction, so much environmental damage, but she's also seen so many giant Pacific octopus. And first of all, just to talk about octopus for a second, these are creatures that our common ancestor is a little flatworm, like that, lived at a time when sponges were the most complex life form on Earth.
They're like barely in the same kingdom as us.
Well, exactly. And I mean, you want to talk about aliens, we talk about how likely is it that higher intelligence will emerge on a planet, or maybe, are there intelligent life forms elsewhere? Well, I'm telling you, higher intelligence has actually evolved twice on Earth, because you see, this flatworm created our lineage and, higher intelligence in humans, but it also created this entirely separate lineage where higher intelligence evolved in octopus. And so these are creatures that have found a way to survive. Giant Pacific octopus, they're about 15 to 20 feet across. They have 9 brains, 1 in each of their tentacles, 1 in their head. They don't see in color. They see in black and white. And yet they have this incredible ability to shift their skin's texture and color to blend in with any surface that they're against. There's been research that has kind of tried to figure this out. And one of the theories is that giant Pacific octopus are actually able to squeeze their eyeballs in different ways that causes light to diffract. And so they've hacked color, even though they have only one type of light sensor in their eyeballs.
Interesting. But having to flex your eyeballs is not comforting to think about.
No.
Don't love that.
No, but they can do it. And so she was like, why would they come close to the shore? And also their predators are right near the shore. So there are marine synanthropes, like harbor seals, sea lions, creatures that love urban environments.
Oh, they love the locks, the Ballard locks.
Exactly.
They can't get enough of the Ballard locks.
Yeah, and they've adapted really well. They found an ecological niche in urban environments, but they also feed on giant Pacific octopus. So what are the giant Pacific octopus doing in the most polluted areas, right near humans and hunted by sea lions?
Just high risk, high reward, baby.
Well, she realized that it's all because of the garbage. If you've ever gone scuba diving, which I was lucky enough to do in and around Seattle, it's pretty much just a total bombed out wasteland filled with garbage. I'm talking about old refrigerators. I'm talking about handguns. I'm talking about camper vans. I'm talking about pieces of the Tacoma Bridge that have fallen down.
Oh, wow.
Old boats, garden gnomes, giant rusted I-beams, rebar. Basically everything that anybody ever wanted to get rid of is on the ocean floor.
Things that you would come across in in a wasteland in a Fallout game.
This is exactly it. And if you go scuba diving, it is very much like you're moving through a haunted, creepy environment. So what she discovered, though, is octopus, they live in dens. and they can't build their own. So they've actually found that when the garbage hits the ground, it stops being garbage and it becomes a landscape feature.
Yeah.
And so she's found, no joke, octopus living in refrigerators.
Oh, wow. I mean, why wouldn't you, right?
Right?
Like, that's free real estate.
It's awesome. And a lot of the ocean around there, like the ocean floor is very silty and muddy, and there isn't much to protect octopus who require topography, like who require, dens. And so they've moved into these urban areas precisely because of the garbage.
Like, that's my garbage.
And they're remaking it into this hospitable environment for themselves.
That reminds me a lot of like when companies and stuff will make like artificial reefs. Like they'll have some sort of like, a decommissioned boat or something like that. And they'll be like, we don't have anything else to do with it. So they'll just like sink it on purpose to make it into an artificial reef.
That's exactly it. It's the same process. And, the way that she thinks about it is I could be an ecologist, a marine ecologist, studying pristine environments, all these beautiful San Juan Islands that are right there. But the same processes that govern how ecosystems function are at play, whether the underwater environment is full of old refrigerators, concrete, and handguns, or if it's full of, sunken logs or rocks or whatever.
Consider that an octopus could hold 8 guns at once. So we better hope.
And their eyesight's pretty good.
Uh-oh.
They also have this capacity to keep their eyeballs level, no matter how their body shifts, which is just so beautiful.
Oh no, we've armed them. Uh-oh.
I was lucky enough. I mean, you can't make this up, but when I went scuba diving, I saw a giant Pacific octopus. And not only was it living under these pieces of concrete in a rusted iron box, but it was holding a clutch of eggs.
Oh.
So they can have, anywhere between 200 and 400,000 eggs. Only 1 or 2 end up living to adulthood. But like just to really drive the point home, it's not just that there was an octopus there.
Yeah.
It was an octopus that was doing well enough to have babies.
Yeah. And that's probably a pretty secure place to lay your eggs too.
Yeah. I mean, they only live about 3.5 years, giant Pacific octopus. And when they have eggs, the mother holds the eggs for up to 8 months, doesn't eat, and then dies.
As is the octopus way, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's the self-sacrificing mother.
Octopus motherhood is more hardcore than anything else. Like I've never heard this. They take it to the extreme.
Yes, they really do. So I saw this octopus mom staring back at me, heavy breathing, and with its tentacle was just like the tip of one of its tentacles was stroking its eggs. Like it was such an amazing, truly amazing moment. And it happened like literally, I don't know, 30 feet from shore.
Oh my gosh.
Surrounded by garbage.
It's like a National Geographic moment when you're like, you can see your car.
Yeah, exactly. Not only can you see your car, like the Bengal tiger is living in it. Right?
Don't mind if I do. Thank you. You brought this for me? So often when we're talking about animals that have made themselves at home in environments that humans have either created for themselves or created inadvertently through just kind of discarding things, often there is a sort of an enmity between the two, right? Like almost like the humans don't seem to want the animals in their spaces, so they try to do all these different things to try to keep them out. There's an antagonistic relationship, I think, between them. I was wondering if you came across any examples of humans being pretty cool with the animals entering their spaces and being like, oh, you know what? You can stay, actually. Like, because a lot of times an animal comes into your space and you're like, I like this one.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating phenomenon. Exactly what you're talking about. Like, what animals do we allow in?
Right. Like, which ones do we kind of be like, you can stay?
Yeah. It has pretty profound consequences. And I can give you one example that dates back about 30,000 years ago. There is this architectural site in Eastern Europe called the Pavlovian Caves. And it dates back to 27,000 years ago. It's this incredible complex structure where archaeologists have found bones from all kinds of animals. Humans, yes, but also all kinds of animals, including woolly mammoth and other big game. And what they've pieced together is that this was one of the earliest examples of human communities that was sedentary. So they had stopped moving. They weren't hunter-gatherers that were traveling from place to place. And so the humans there would go out, they would hunt woolly mammoth, and they would drag them back to their cave structure, and they would feed on the flesh over a period of days, maybe weeks. Now, when you have a rotting woolly mammoth corpse in front of your home, you're naturally going to invite other animals to come. So there were cave lions, there were hyenas, there were wolves, like there were all these animals, these big, scary, hungry animals that would come to the Pavlovian caves to eat. And humans were like, oh God, what have we done? And I love this term. The archaeologists that looked into this described it as a carry-on landscape. Oh. So it's like the whole landscape is just rotting flesh and bones and everything. And so now the humans have to fight off all of these scary scavengers that are, doing incursions into their space. But they can't fight off every single scavenger. And so they fought off the big ones, but the smaller ones, they actually let in. And the two smaller ones that they let in, that there's evidence of in these archaeological digs, are foxes and ravens.
Oh, wow.
And what's even crazier is that, as I said, there were bones of all kinds of animals that were found there. And the raven bones were different from all of the other ones because there were no tooth marks or burn marks on them.
Oh, so we were not eating those.
We were not eating ravens. But there were raven feathers that were used ornamentally in some of the graves, in other kind of ceremonial clothing that was found on the site. And basically what you see here is the origin of synanthropy, right? Like this phenomenon of animals living in human-modified environments along with ravens. And along with that, you see this example of this really deep spiritual connection emerging between ravens and humans, because parts of this incredible bird were used to commemorate really important parts of the life stage of human beings.
And seen as like sacred enough not to like eat them.
Exactly.
Like, we don't eat that one.
Exactly.
That one's not for us.
So then you extrapolate that, and pretty much everywhere where ravens exist, there are spiritual movements. Like you go back to the Norse pantheon, where Odin, the king of all the gods, had two ravens that traveled around the world as his eyes and reported back to him. There are long-standing raven myths in the Pacific Northwest. The Haida people, raven plays this really, really important part in the creation of man, creation of humans. And, this is basically the world over, right? So when you're asking me, like, are there animals that we don't mind? It's not even that we don't mind animals. Some of these long-standing synanthropes, these urban animals, their relationship with humans goes back so far that they become implicated, like deeply implicated in how we understand our spiritual selves. And that is just so beautiful. And I think that still stands today, right? Where I think birds in particular there's research that has been done that demonstrates that hearing birdsong actually reduces levels of stress in humans.
I feel it.
And that it doesn't even matter what kind of birds you hear. If you hear more than one birdsong, it's kind of this dose response.
Oh, wow.
Where the more types of birdsong that you hear at any one time, the reduction in stress increases. So there's this way that like we find animals really comforting.
Yeah.
And really beautiful and help us navigate our stressful lives.
This seems so like distinctly different from something like domestication, where like an animal has adapted to sort of like rely on us. This animal is retaining its wildness, right?
Yeah.
Like they are independent from us and don't necessarily like live in our homes with us or anything like that. We don't have any sort of control over this animal, but we have a very tight relationship with it anyway. That feels distinct from something like domestication.
Absolutely. And I think part of it is that it's kind of complicated, but basically urban animals retain some kind of role in the ecosystem. Domesticated animals basically don't. We have separated out the animal from their ecological role. And so you kind of take away a part of what makes them them when you take them away from the role they play in an ecosystem. But with wild birds and, other wild animals, it's complicated because urban ecosystems are strange places where things are never quite normal. But these animals still play ecological roles as part of a larger, a complex system of relationships across animals and different organisms.
In addition to talking about the usual suspects with things like coyotes and raccoons and pigeons, which are fascinating in their own right, you go into stories about some very unexpected animals that you wouldn't really think would thrive in like human environments. Like you mentioned the octopuses, but you also talk about things like orcas and like big cats and things like that.
Yeah.
Which I was like, you don't really think about those animals as like being at all impacted, or if they are at all impacted, then just wanting to like stay away from, cities as much as possible. But you have some really fascinating stories in there about like big cats in cities and stuff, which was unthinkable to me. But then I was like, oh, dang, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, so those are stories really from India, although there are examples of big cat incursions in places like Los Angeles, where there are mountain lions that roam around, the forests and the mountains that surround LA. And one very famous mountain lion named P22, which like the whole world learned about during COVID, became kind of like a hero, a proxy hero for everyone. And the cool thing about P22 is that his death actually galvanized a movement to get a wildlife crossing over the US 101. So there's these Santa Monica mountain lions that have been totally trapped in a very small area and are slowly going extinct because they don't have enough genetic diversity to basically, continue thriving in this area. The reason they can't find other mountain lions to mate with is because of the US 101, this gigantic 6-lane highway that basically is like a wall of moving steel at any one time. And so it's effectively trapped these animals on one side of a highway. On the other side of the highway, there are all kinds of mountain lions that they could mate with. And nobody cared enough to do anything about it until P22. Like this celebrity icon, it really changed everything. And when he died, that really pushed things over the edge for LA. And this year, there is the largest wildlife crossing in the world that's going to open over the US 101 and save all of P22's kin because he comes from these Santa Monica mountain lions. But yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of crazy stories in this book.
Also, there's things for plant lovers. The plants
Yes.
don't get snubbed.
Yes.
I know this is a wildlife podcast and we talk about animals, but there is plant representation. Plants are in there.
There is. So Synanthropes, technically, it's not just animals that live in urban environments. It's any life form that lives in an urban environment that's adapted to it. So you can have synanthropic fungus or synanthropic bacteria, and we do. I don't really cover that in the book, but there are also synanthropic plants. And the one chapter that I devoted to a synanthropic plant is a plant called kudzu, which is all over the South. It's this vine.
For me, I'm like, oh.
Oh, yes. Yeah, kudzu.
That is not my boy.
So the thing about kudzu, why I wanted to, of all the plants, why I wanted to include it is it can grow a foot a day.
Truly, it is sci-fi horror villain levels of like, it is insidious.
Yeah, I mean, it practically moves. That's why I it's as close to an animal as you can get. Sounds like you're into sci-fi. I quoted Day of the Triffids at the top of the chapter, a famous book about plants that can move around. And had a great time going down to Birmingham, Alabama, and just seeing kudzu practically everywhere.
I feel like you wouldn't even need to get out of the plane to see the kudzu.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But yeah, I mean, and then talk about big cat attacks in India, Bengal tigers, which are now basically encroaching or being encroached upon by people living on the outskirts of Calcutta, one of the world's largest cities, and the kind of challenges of trying to do conservation near urban environments when the animal you're trying to save actually eats human beings.
It's a hard sell.
It's a tough one. And then another one that, is actually by some measures the world's most successful vertebrate synanthrope are bats. there are over 80 species of bats that have adapted to urban places around the entire world. And the ways that they've done it is absolutely fascinating. Like bats use echolocation, so sound, to kind of travel at night and basically, quote unquote, see by absorbing the sound waves that bounce back to them. But because there's so much ambient noise in urban environments, a lot of bat species have found ways to kind of adapt their songs or adapt the way they make vocalizations, moving up or down the ultrasonic range to figure out parts of that range that aren't subject to so much noise pollution, and wonderfully elegant adaptations all around. It's really cool.
Like they have like a secret language, like a secret spy language that we just can't hear. Because I was thinking, I was like, man, I wouldn't have thought bats, because I feel like I never see them, like I really don't see them around, but I guess they're doing their job.
That's exactly it. And so I went to Buffalo, New York, and hung out with this architect who designs sculptures that are really beautiful in and of themselves, but they are also secretly places where animals can live.
That's so smart.
Yeah. So we walked around her neighborhood in Buffalo, and she had this ultrasonic noise machine that captures ultrasonic noise and then shifts it down into the range of human hearing. And so we were just walking for like 10 minutes, and then suddenly you hear like, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can't see anything, but you can hear these bats that are flying overhead.
It's crazy that they're so not only good at living where we live, but also can do it in such a way that like you would never know that they were there. You could walk right by them and have no clue.
Exactly.
Well, Dan, for anyone who is inspired and wants to learn more about the synanthropes that you talk about in your book, the title, by the way, I don't think we've said the whole title yet. Don't worry. When I'm editing it, I will put the full title in the beginning. We won't have gone this long without actually saying the title. Tell people where they can find our wild familiars.
I mean, pretty much everywhere. It's out on July 14th. So your local bookstore, I am sure, can get it if they don't have it already, or online. And if you want to follow me, I'm on Instagram at Dan Werb, just basically posting a lot about animals all around us.
I will have links to everything in the episode description, so anybody listening can scroll down and click through to follow you on social media, check out the book. Dan, thank you so much for spending this time with us. It has been such a delight. I loved learning about animals in places where you don't necessarily expect them, and the fascinating ways that they've adapted to live alongside us. So thank you so much for your time and your knowledge and your insight. I've had a great time.
Yeah, it was super fun. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Dan. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all so much for listening. I hope that you learned something new and maybe gained a deeper appreciation for the interconnectedness between humans and our wild neighbors. If you liked what you heard, I would love it if you left behind some kind words for us in a review on your podcast app of choice. If you want to hang out with us online, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, Blue Sky. Links to everything will be in the episode description. You can send me an email at ellen@justthezooofus.com if you can have a cool animal you'd like to hear us talk about on the show. We would like to thank Maximum Fun for having us on their network alongside their other amazing shows like the ones you heard promos for earlier during this episode. You can go check those out and support our content over at MaximumFun.org. Finally, we would like to thank Louis Zong for our theme music. That's all for today. We'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
Supported
directly
by you.